Hello and welcome to this video on Geometry Nodes Fundamentals. I'm going to be going through what attributes are, what fields are, context is, domains, all these different types of things that can be a bit abstract. And even if you've used Geometry Nodes for a while, I think this video will be helpful to you in understanding how things work on a more fundamental level, which will ultimately allow you to create more complex systems and do more complex things with manipulating attributes. But yeah, let's get started. I'm going to go into my Geometry Nodes workspace here. I'm just going to drop down a plane to begin with because it's just a really simple piece of geometry to work with. And I'm going to be using the spreadsheet a lot during this to explain exactly what attributes are. And already we can explain what they are without even adding a geometry nodes modifier because they exist with or without geometry nodes. So we have our default attributes that Blender adds when we create this plane, such as sharp face, UV maps, and position. Position is obviously the most important, and it's the one we can never delete. We can delete the other ones. But the first thing to understand is that Blender stores attributes on different domains here. So you can see under our geometry context, we have vertex domain, edge domain, face domain, etc. We also have domains of different object types like curve, spline domains, grease pencil layers, volumes, and instances. These are all geometry as far as Blender is concerned. So basically, what we want to do with geometry nodes on the most fundamental level is change overwrite the attributes of these objects. So for example, to displace this plane, we would just be overwriting the position attribute, or to add more vertices, we would just be increasing the number of rows here. And the number of rows is actually quite fundamental because it represents a field called the index field. And what that means is that each point has a value associated with it to tell you sort of what row it is in the spreadsheet. So if I add a geometry nodes group, we can visualize this using an indexed node. And if I create a viewer node with Control Shift left click on the group input and then on the index node, you can see that we have this visual representation which has one black corner and then it goes way past the value of 1. So to see the values of this, I'm going to, in my overlays, turn on attribute text. We can see exactly what's going on here. So essentially what's happening is that we're starting out from 0, going 1, 2, 3. And if I replace this with like a grid rather than our group input and view that, you can see that as I add more, we get loads of indexes that go up to the number that we have, and they have this sort of structured way of forming. The way in which these indexes are created, like the order of them, depends on how you create the geometry exactly. Like the indexes of this grid quite nice, they're always quite even, but if I did this in a different way, say I took the group input, which is just our default plane, and I subdivided it with a subdivide mesh, the indexes are a bit more shuffled, they're done in a different way, so that's just worth bearing in mind. But when you're thinking about attributes inside of geometry nodes, all you're doing is essentially thinking about a different value stored on each of these indexes, which is exactly what the spreadsheet shows you if you think about it. So the position attribute, for example, the position field, attribute and field can be used interchangeably. They basically mean the same thing. So the position field is just a value that's a vector value that's different on each of the indexes of this plane. So we can view the position field in the same way. Like so, you can see that we just have different values on different indexes of this plane, represented the same way in the spreadsheet. And we don't have to just store position, we can store custom attributes, like, for example, anything in geometry nodes that's kind of interesting is most likely a field. So, like a random value, this stores a different value on each index. And a noise texture is even a field as well in geometry nodes. It's not like the shader editor where it would interpolate this across the surface of the mesh. It stores it only on discrete points or discrete domains. And that makes sense because this is geometry nodes, it's not shading nodes. We're storing information on geometry data, so can't just store it across the surface. Now indexes can be sort of evaluated on different domain types. And what that means is that right now we're viewing this on points in our viewer node, and in the spreadsheet we're viewing this on vertices, which are also points in Blender. But we could just as easily view this on a different domain, such as edges, and this edge context is going to have a different set of indexes than it is to the points. So you can see they're completely different. They go in different ways. They're stored on obviously the edges rather than in the corners. And same with faces as well. We could view this on faces. Completely different set of values again. And then when we view things like the random value with the face context, it's going to be using the face index. So we're going to get different things again. And, not all things are interpolated. Faces aren't, but points are. So that's something to bear in mind. And edges give you a completely different result. Same with face corners, completely different. This is really useful for UV maps, by the way, but yeah, that's more of an advanced thing. Sometimes you might not have to worry about what this view is looking at, but it can be really useful sometimes to know exactly why this is happening. So if you have a bunch of instances, for example, and you can't see an attribute on them, you might need to set this to instance. But let's start storing some attributes on this plane. So we can store named attribute and look at what this does in the spreadsheet. So let's store an attribute called ran for random, and we can store it on points, or we can store it on edges in this context over here, or we can store it on faces, any other data types we have. This store named attribute can also be used to overwrite like specially named attributes that Blender recognizes. So for example, let's make, say, a cube out of this plane and make sure we use the group input instead of this grid. And then let's subdivide this just in edit mode in the viewport here. We could do this in GeoNodes, but it's not really important. And let's say we want to bevel this plane on some specific edges, and we want to use a bevel node modifier for that. Well, we can set this to weight, and you see it has this edge weight attribute, which is called bevel weight edge. And we can actually write that attribute in GeoNodes, because all it is a specially named attribute. And if I write that and plug this random value into it, we get, this kind of weird effect. I'll probably want to store this on edges though, because that makes more sense for the bevel modifier to be beveling edges rather than points. But, this doesn't have to be a random value. It could be a noise. It could also be a, based on like the edge angle, for example, which is another way of reading in information in here. So you can really do that kind of thing with this. And right now you see if I just make this a constant value, it's beveling everything, because in the spreadsheet, if we look at our value here that we're setting, we're going to be setting this all to a value of 1. So yeah, if I put the viewer node in here, I think it gets a bit weird with using these special named attributes. Sometimes they'll just be set to 0 even though they're technically not. So get a bit weird, but that's not really nothing to worry about. It's just weird Blender things. So if you add in a viewer node, you can see the values that we're actually setting in here. We could set them based on the index, which would be very weird. It would bevel stuff more as the index increased. So you get all sorts of weird effects. And in the same way, we can overwrite the position attribute, which right now we're going to get all sorts of errors because we're trying to write the position as a float, which it isn't. It's a vector. And it also only exists on points. We can never have an edge position. The edge position is sort of derived from the point position. So let's set this back to point and to vector. Now we're overwriting the position of everything to be at 0, which is why we can't see anything right now, because it's all compressed down at 0. And that's why our position attribute in the spreadsheet all been zeroed out. But if we plug the position back in here, we're just setting it to what it was in this context. And that brings me on to context, which essentially means at what geometry stream are you viewing this read node? Because I want you to think about these attribute nodes as actually read nodes. So this isn't containing any information within it. It's just reading it from the spreadsheet. So if we read the value at the beginning, our position values are going to be like this at the beginning. And then if we set the position to 0 and then try and read the position after this, everything's going to be 0. So this isn't like a set value node. It's just a read node that's based on where you are in the node tree. And for this reason, it can sometimes be useful to capture attributes, which basically means you're basically telling Blender to remember the value of the position at the whole field at this context point. So if I view that here, that makes sense. It's the same as if I view it at the start. But if I then view this after I set the position, obviously right now it's all at 0. But if I plug this in, all our points are going to be stacked on top of each other with their original positions shown in the viewport, which you can't really see that well. So I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to set the position to scale up. So I'm going to add a scale node after this, scale it by 2. So now before and after, this cube is growing in size. And now if I view the position node after this, let's look at, say, this one corner here. We go -2, -2, 0. After we capture the attribute, we can view it. And now we see its original position, which is -1, -1, 0. This isn't the position it's actually at anymore, but it's its original position sort of remembered by Blender. And then we could, do weird stuff with this now where we maybe take this away from its current position to get the difference in scale. That should give us a value of 1. I want to use a vector math for that. Not that. Vector math, subtract. And this will sort of give us like the difference in position, which will just be 1 based on the scale factor. So you could imagine how that might be useful for like certain effects. And it's also important to always remember to make sure you keep track of your domains as well, because obviously this position only exists on point domains. And if I wanted to like use this random value on faces again, I could just grab a random value node and plug that in there. And this capture attribute's a bit weird. Sometimes you have to go into end panel and delete unused stuff that you don't want out of it. But yes, say I want to capture the random value on a face. Now when I view this, it will always be shown on faces if I leave this view node on auto. So that's kind of cool. The next thing I want to talk about is implicit sort of sockets inside of geometry nodes. So you can see, like, for example, with the random value and the noise textures, there's like this ID socket and this vector socket, which appear to not have anything plugged into them, but really under the hood what Blender's doing is implicitly connecting certain fields into these. So the random value node looks the same if I plug in the index into the ID, which tells you it's always been using this, you just couldn't see it. So if I disconnect that and maybe do something different in the ID, maybe I plug in a constant value like an integer, all the values now get set to the same thing. And that's because the ID is basically what's getting scrambled by the random value node into the random numbers. And you can see as I switch between the index and this constant value, the line type changes from dashed to solid. And that's showing you that you're now working with a single value when it's a solid line. And if you hover over it, you can see that single value it's generating. Versus with a field, you can't hover over it and see it because it's a whole collection of values, as you can see in the viewport. Same with the noise texture here. The vector is plugged into the position by default. And yeah, this is sort of implicit behavior, but it can be useful if you need to like move this around a little bit to know that that's a thing, so you can animate it moving or something like that. And by the way, what we're doing with the store named attribute position here is exactly the same as using a set position, but this set position does this step implicitly, plugs the position into itself implicitly in the same way we were talking about implicit sockets with the random value node and such. Does the exact same thing here, like that. And yeah, I would recommend using this set position as well because it includes this offset, which is the same as adding to this position like this. So if I add like 1 to the offset of both of these, you can see they're identical again. The only other thing I'd like to say is that the geometry stream here can actually contain all of these different data types at once, and it's important to remember that when you're working in GeoNodes, because on more complex stuff especially, you can get into a situation where you might have a curve and a mesh sort of joined together. So if I add like a curve line here and join that into the main stream, you can see now we have a curve data type. In our spreadsheet, we have 2 control points on our curve, and we also have a bunch of mesh points with our cube. So when we do like geometry specific operations like a curve to mesh, you'll get an error because it will basically disregard all the mesh inputs here, and it will only look at the curve. So it's useful to use the separate components node as well to help you get more control over the data you're passing into these nodes. So we only pass the curve into here, then we like rejoin it with the mesh afterwards or something like that. But it's just a reminder that all these sort of geometry types can exist in this one stream, and then you can either separate them out and work on them individually or work on them all together. But some nodes are specific to specific geometry types. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. There's nothing like crazy that we're making here, but it's just a really basic fundamental video on this. So hopefully this makes a bit more sense to you now about how GeoNodes operates and gives you a better understanding of how you can exploit it to change things like the bevel weight node and stuff like that. Any attribute inside of Blender can be changed inside of GeoNodes, and that's fundamentally all that GeoNodes does. So hopefully you learned something useful from this, and I'll see you in the next one.